all from these crazy light gun ranges. This is what gets Nintendo into the video game business. So they start selling the Odyssey in Japan. Pretty quickly, they actually just license a bunch of the tech from Magnavox and start making their own modified consoles. 1975 is when they licensed the Odyssey. The next year in 1976, they take a bunch of that tech and they make their own Nintendo home video game console. The very first one that they make, the Color TV Game 6. And it's just kind of a Odyssey knockoff, just more localized for Japan and like maybe a little better tech, but the same thing. It only plays a couple simplistic games, one of which is table tennis. It becomes a huge hit, just like the Odyssey. That Color TV Game 6 sells 1 million units in Japan for Nintendo. So this is like transformative for Nintendo.
And what year is this?
1976.
Okay, so this is kind of before the success of the US based home console rush.
100%. This is like Nintendo is very early to the market, just in their own unique way, isolated to Japan. But they're learning everything along the way. The next year, they follow the Color TV Game 6 up with a new model, the Color TV Game 15. Plays 15 games instead of 6 games.
I was like, why are they calling it the 6? Okay.
Yeah. Because remember, these are not cartridge-based consoles yet. They have the game cards, but you're not selling programmable software for them.
Huh.
So that sells another 1 million units. And together, these consoles, like I said, totally transform the company. Like they're making much better margins on these things. They can sell them for higher sticker price than the Ultra Hand and the other toys that they're selling.
Right.
The shooting gun ranges, like that's a fad that goes the way of the bowling alley in Japan. So this is what Nintendo becomes, kind of inadvertently. They become a Japanese video game
pseudo importer reseller.
Yep.
That's crazy. By the way, do you know how the light gun works and why that was such a leap forward?
No.
So this was a very clever invention by Nintendo's engineers. You could imagine that the way a light gun, the most intuitive way for it to work would be like, well, you take a regular gun that shoots bullets out of it, and instead you make it shoot some kind of laser out of it. But what that would require is for the TV, the target, to have a detector on it, which you really don't want to have to force that constraint. That sounds really hard, especially when you're trying to work with like a lot of different TVs.
Ironic that later Nintendo would force that constraint with the Wii.
Right. Isn't that funny? So they flipped it on its head. They figured out that actually what we should be doing is we should make the gun the detector, and we should specialize what's coming on the screen. So there's like a one frame thing that happens. And I think that you can still see this in the early Duck Hunt games, but basically the screen flashes one frame where only the target is lit up and the gun is the detector. And if in the gun's sight it sees the set of pixels that are lit on the one frame, then it knows it got a hit. And if it doesn't detect those pixels, then it's a miss.
No way. I always wondered how Duck Hunt worked. I had no idea.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
That's amazing. So Nintendo, thanks to this relationship with Magnavox, is in this incredibly privileged position in this new industry. They have a bird's eye view into the American home video game industry, and they're learning all the lessons from what's happening there. Mm-hmm. They're also pioneering and establishing themselves as the leader in the Japanese video game industry. So they're in a great spot through all of this. They see, come 1977, when Atari and Warner Brothers releases the VCS 2600 in America, the Yamauchi, even despite not being, an engineer, is like, clearly this is the future. Yep. Like this piece of hardware not only is so much better than all this dedicated stuff that's like the Odyssey and like what we've been doing that came before, but the business model implications of this, the razor and blades model, the interchangeable cartridges, selling software, we got to get into this game.
Yep.
But they also see things are crazy over in America. Everybody's rushing into this industry. Like,
yeah, they got to be very judicious here. Like, it's a very attractive market to enter, but they have to figure out a way to differentiate and not make all the same exact mistakes that everyone else is making. and rush in with crap products that, eventually people are going to stop buying. They have to figure out how to sell something like interesting, durable, and unique.